I had a conversation with someone this a while ago. I think I see the appeal of working with elite athletes, right? They're like the kind of Ferrari of the car world. Like, it's pretty amazing. It's jazzy. It's all these kind of things. But, and not always, this is a very sweeping statement, but they tend to have a pretty good support team behind them. They're pretty driven individuals. I mean, you're an athlete. I had that athlete life. You're driven towards a goal. So I think getting them on task and achieving stuff is a little bit different to the average person who has pain, doesn't really know a lot about their body, is maybe not quite so driven, and has often a lot of other factors going on that sort of influence their kind of journey. And I find that's, I don't know, sometimes a little bit more rewarding. I'm not sure if I'm telling myself that because that's what I see, but I kind of enjoy seeing those patients and working out the problems and seeing how we can kind of help their life out a little bit by, helping them through their pain journey.
Something a bit more holistic, maybe. Like, do you find the elite athletes harder work?
No, not necessarily harder. I think, and they can be. I mean, depending on the personality, right? There's a lot of A-type personalities out there that are quite demanding, but I think you can do quite adventurous stuff with athletes, which is really cool. Like, especially in terms of exercise prescriptions, you can really go high level and challenge them, which is great. But I think with the athlete, I almost expect with their kind of motivation, self-efficacy, a lot of the time they get better with, you don't need to push them too hard. That they want to get better. You can kind of roughly guide them. Whereas, if I get an old 60-year-old farmer coming in with low back pain, who's been told all his life some really horrible myths from his wife and his friends about his back pain, it's a lot more challenging to try and turn them around and get them on board with what you're trying to do. Frustrating, but if you get there, I don't know, I get a real sense of satisfaction from work.
Quite interesting. It's like the power of belief, isn't it? Behind what sits behind, like, what story are you telling yourself about your injury? I think that's a really interesting point you've made there, that obviously the athlete has got this story they're telling themselves about how great they're going to be, whereas the 60-year-old who's had back pain for the last 5 or 10 years has got a completely different set of narratives kind of going on. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's huge. And I can't remember who I learned this off. It might have been after reading like a Louis Gifford book, who's a really amazing physiotherapist. But he used to ask, I think it was him who used to ask patients to draw what their problem was. So he'd say, how do you envisage your knee? What does it look like to you? And you get them to draw it. And I thought it was a bit kooky when I first heard of it. But a few of my patients that couldn't articulate their problems, you'd get them to kind of draw the issue. So you'd say, okay, draw to me what your hip looks like. And, it was really interesting. Like, I had some guys who draw jagged edged hips, or I had a really interesting chap that had like a patellar tendinopathy, and he drew his left tendon, which was his non-injured tendon. And he drew this nice sort of straight line, striated tendon, which looked like something to come out of a biological textbook. And then his injured tendon, he drew this huge hole and in the middle of it. And I kind of quizzed him on it a little bit. And he goes, that's how I see my tendon. It's this tendon with a huge hole. And it was because of that belief